Hello, friends, welcome back. Today we have an immigration lawyer, Mary Kennedy, with us. We are going to discuss in detail about the executive order and what is happening next. The big question, what next, is going to be answered in this session.
Good evening, all. And I'm very glad that I can be part of this
First question, who are all impacted by this executive order of our President Trump?
HL and the J visas, particularly. And it's going to be only outside the United States. That we have to be very clear about it, not for any other status that's going to be happening within the United States. So, including the new H1B, the 2021 cap, nothing is affected at this point of time. So, it's all remains the same. And so, the executive order that has been issued is limited to outside United States.
What is the impact of this executive order on L1 visa?
L1, it's very specific to the company that they have and like on whose sponsorship he's on. At least for the H1s, they can look for other jobs within the 60 days criteria. But for the L1, there is very limited, they have to go back. There is nothing that they can do about it. I'm very sorry to hear about it. And also, it's applicable to the dependents as well. So the worst part is, even if some reason, if the H1B, like the employee or the beneficiary is over here in US, and the dependent for some reason in India, and if they have been stuck with already the consulates being closed and everything, and even they cannot go for a stamping till December end, and so they have to be remaining over there in out of United States, leaving the family. That's the worst part I'm hearing, which is not the right thing to happen. Actually, very sorry about it, and and any other questions to related to this. And F1, that's not impacted. The students can like travel, and if they have a valid visa stamping, they can enter back to the country.
Uh, Normally, when there is a situation like this, they will give some options where if there is a death or something, they could travel. Is there any options that is available or everything is closed?
At this point of time, it's completely, there is no exception. But again, there will be always an emergency situations. I'm not very sure how it's going to be because it's very new, and it is, it is a wording that says, the discretion of the officer and the consulates. So in very exceptional cases, they can be allowed. We have to wait and see how it's going to be impacted, and how it's the discretion of the officer that they have to decide on what situations. And completely it's going to be that it can't be even said that anyone can go for a consulate and then they cannot be entering the country. It's completely said to be that they cannot even apply to go for a consulate for the visa stamping till December end.
What I heard is like worldwide, all the US embassy is closed, but in Europe, it's open. So, what I want to ask is like, if I want to go for a stamping, so can I go and get stamped in Europe, and can I visit my country and come back? Will that work?
No, actually, you have to keep in, see, the one thing that we're talking about earlier was because of the pandemic, the consulates are closed. But now you're looking at the executive order where it is, irrespective of the consulates being opened up sooner or later, it does not help you in the sense like, earlier part of it, we were talking about the pandemic situation where, all the consulates were closed, where people can find an option to go and get it stamped. But now it's completely, nowhere you can avail any opportunity to go for a visa stamping. It's completely not, it's possible.
What's next? What's going to happen next? This is the big curiosity. I think most of us working in IT have this main question going in our head. What is next? How is our future going to be? Is it all going to end? Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
We were focusing on only till December 2021. So my concern, or even the AILA and all the other concern over here, is more than what has been said. There were so many clauses that says on the proclamation, like what is going to be the, there is a list of things. I have it with me. So the additional measures that was set going to happen, that's a very, if it all happens, it's going to have a very severe consequences on the non-immigrants, not only on the H1s or the stamping or how far it is going to be. There is an additional measures that has been said, that saying that, to be taken towards an EB2 and an EB3, or as well as an H1B. So all these, what is going to be and how it's going to be, we are not very clear about it. Even AILA is not clear about it. There are so many documents, that has been released. But even in one of the article that was done by Jonathan Wasden in the Forbes interview, he has talked about it. That was a serious concern rather than just a temporary consulate and the stamping. So that is a very serious concern and serious question that has to be addressed. So they were talking about in the interim program that has to be, that is going to come up, where it's going to be all the specialty occupation with the bachelor's degree. That is not something new. Already specialty occupation requires a bachelor's degree, that is for sure. And if you all know about it, and we all know that there was a memo that was issued a week or 10 days before, where USCIS, along with the settlement that happened with ITserv, so in the memo that was issued 10 days before, where with the settlement agreement that happened with ITserv Alliance, it was said that the employer-employee relationship documentation, as well as the contracts and itinerary of services that was requested in most of the RFEs by USCIS for the H1B filing, will not be requested again. So considering that, this executive order still says the interim program that's going to come up is going to be revisiting, and then there is going to be an redefining employer-employee relationship, particularly with the third-party placement, which means all the smaller IT service companies, which is all, we all know that is what prevalent in the consulting industry. So how far they are going to define it, how hard it's going to be is the question. That's a bigger question with the executive order. We had time, the direct employee, but most of the clients and, that's the third party placement. So that is all to be redefined. That's what the, additional feature of that executive order says, that it's going to be redefined with employer-employee relationship and a third party placement, as well as undertaken LCA regulations. So for the perm filing, we do have a regulation where the employer states that in the past 180 days, there is no replacement or layoff onto the same position. So the labor condition application, which is related to the H1B, is also going to be coming up, where in the secondary placements of the clients, they are going to state that if they have not replaced any additional US worker, which is valid point when it comes to the unemployment and everything that is happening with the US employers. But how far it's going to be seriously affected is something we have to wait and see.
You mentioned about EB2. So this is not going, will it have any problem with EB3 or just EB2?
No, it's both EB2 and EB3 as well as H1B. It talks about how there will be definitely additional recruitment efforts. Is it going to be for the future filing after the memo, or even it's going to be for already approved EB2 and an EB3 category? That is a bigger question that is still there.
So if my green card is already in progress, like my perm is already approved, will I have issues with filing my I-140? Or is it only for new perms?
No, that's what I try to explain it to you. Even it is stated that EB3 or EB2, as well, even for people who had been approved of an I-140.
So if I-140 is approved, even for 485, they're going to have problems.
Not about the 485. It says how far it's going to go back, because there are decades of, we know that EB3 and EB2, 2009 and 2010 is the priority date that's going on. It's already 10 years or closer to it. We are already waiting on it. So how far they can go back and say that additional recruitments for whatever has been approved, But the Jonathan Wasden, as I said in the Forbes interview, he said he cannot be doing it. The executive order cannot be going back because this is all passed by Congress, and so there are limitations onto that. But still, we have to wait and see how far it's going to go back.
You mentioned something about bachelor's. So if I have master's degree, am I safe? Is anyone safe?
See, the basic requirement of a specialty occupation H-1B is that you have to have a bachelor's degree. And that is the reason for us to get all the specialty occupation RFEs and everything related to that. So keeping that in mind, but there are sometimes, we do substantiate with experience in case of a 3 years degree for an H-1B. So with the experience that is being equated to that of a bachelor's degree, the executive order at this point of time is not very specific about it. But as said, we have to wait and see how far the interim order is going to bring the regulations related to that.
What's your take on the job market? Is it going to go down, come up? Because many of them have lost their jobs, and many sectors have many have closed actually. So many IT people are losing their jobs, not just IT people, all sectors. So what is your view on it? Do you think because of all these orders, it's going to come up? Do you see any light?
Actually, see, the one thing I always say is like, most of the time it's not that even our office or any other law firms, as even I talk to my friends and other attorneys, it's not at this point of time, we are not, sometimes it's not the legal counsel anyone is looking for. It's something to share what is they are undergoing at this point of time. So we talk about it, and more than the legal counsel, whatever we could help them out to strengthen them. And as always, I say that there is limitations. So do your best of whatever you could at this point of time. And the rest, if you don't have any control on it, because I am also part of other voluntary organizations where they are helping the communities and as such. So many very early death and depression and associated stress related to that is not at all easy. Even being over there, walking day by day, even though, I'm a US citizen, the walk every non-immigrant is taking towards their visas is not at all easy. The stress related to that is huge. And even in a very early death, it is very sad. One of our community who's like 42 years old, and he just passed away by a heart attack, sudden heart attack in Naperville. And when you go to look into it, he had an extension that is being pending and an RFE is there, and his project was with Disney. So all these things, you don't know exact reason of what was going on in each one's life after the death, but you can relate it very well, how much of a stress is there each individual is going through, and what kind of impact that it can happen. So the family was there for a very short while on a H4, and they got it booked with Air India flights, and they left 2 weeks before. So both the kids and the wife. And the question the older one asked was, is there any option, auntie, for me to continue my high school over here? There is no way that they can be able to stay over here. So all these, when you really walk with people and then see that how much of an impact this is happening, that's not easy for me as well as to see them, why. And there are, as I say, each one's case is very different. Try to get an opinion, legal opinion. So don't just Google it and find your answer, and understand this is my rights, this is my limitations. Try your best to talk to any other legal advisor. Try to see what best can be done at the situation. I do understand, there is limitations. Even ILA has filed a lawsuit when the pandemic period was going on, when all the other federal agencies like extending the tax returns to be filed and everything was done. But the grace period that was given after a layoff done was 60 days period, and there is so much of furlough that's going on, and DOL did not change any regulation that was related to even at the time of pandemic. They said everything has to be followed the same with any labor condition application that has been filed or posted or anything. So there was a lawsuit, but nothing, because the one thing is it takes time to be decided on a lawsuit. We have to wait on it. So on top of it, that's the only thing my concern and advice is, if you have to go back and see what way you can, like try your best. Don't conclude yourself as, this limitations.
Okay, we have Harish with us. He is one of our guy who works from North Carolina. He has some questions to Mary. Harish, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Satish. Hello, ma'am. The question I had is, if I have a valid visa, can I, and it's stamped on my passport, can I go out of the country and come back in?
Of June 24th, when you have a visa that is stamped on your passport, you can go back and come and enter into the country. There is no limitations for you.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that was the one question I had.
In
Yeah.
addition to that, as Harish raised that question, any visa, if you have it on your passport stamped on June, by the date of June 24th, you can always come back. Say, even if you're on a H1, but when you went back and you have a valid H4, still try to enter the country on the H4. And once you come over here, then you can amend it to that of H1 to that of H4 to that of H1. So that is an option that's possible. So any visa stamping, if you have and you're stuck out of country, just enter into it and then go for an amendment. So if you have an F1 and that has been valid, and you have applied for the new H1B cap season, and you have opted for a consulate approval, still you can amend it to that of H1B once you enter over here after that filing for an amendment. So that's an option, you can make use of it.
Another question. Few of my friends have been furloughed. So they might be having 50% of the salary or 70% of the salary, but in their H1 document, they might have a different pay scale. In this case, should they submit an amendment, or what is the process?
Yes, as I said, there is no lenience that has been given by the DOL. So they have to go for an amendment. The one thing is, even if they go for an amendment as a part-time, or the salary or the title that has been changed according to the new position, they don't want to have to wait for the approval to come in. So as long as the employer filed for an amendment, they can start with the part-time as well as the prevailing wage, whatever is applicable to the new LCA that has been filed for. So for not only an LCA, they have to go for an H1B amendment.
H1B amendment. Thank you.
And will it? The follow will it impact in any part of the I-140 filing or in the future green card filing, Mary?
See, the furlough is not allowed on a H1B, or a benching period is not allowed on a H1B. Completely, unless it's a family related, like a leave that they are going to make use of. So in that case, so you cannot remain on H1B and furloughed. So if it is only 60 days that is allowed, and you have to join the employer again filing for a H1, or you have to be paid.
So the option is the employer can pay fully, or they have to file for an amendment.
Amendment, right, as making it as a part-time amendment, or if they are going for a lower wage level, or wage that is lesser than what has been prior filed for, then they have to file for an amendment.
Thank you.
And sorry, Nancy. Mary, when you are saying about like the new rules may fall soon about the EB2, EB3, and which is related to H1Bs, the I-140s, are you expecting it before this year, or maybe in 2021? How soon you're expecting those things, Mary?
Friends, we had even more questions answered by our immigration lawyer. It was more than an hour-long session. For this video, we would love to end over here. Part 2, Part 3, Part 4 coming soon. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and at this time I would love to thank our lawyer, Mary Kennedy. Thank you so much for your time, for graciously and patiently helping us. Thank you. Thank you so much.